Welcome, everyone. We got ourselves a real talk strategy because we are talking about Atlanta. So the panelists here were kind enough to spare a couple of hours as we were all prepping and being busy and doing super important stuff to actually give you guys a little preview of the upcoming EPT winter at DreamHack Atlanta. Excuse me. I just called it Atlanta. So here we are. So we have had a couple of tournaments also happen, but we kind of wanted to focus primarily on this upcoming one. So Atlanta, if you guys are not aware, you should be, is happening next week. So all of us on the show here are going to be flying out. Well, I guess Kat's going to be like driving, but most of us are going to be flying out. Yeah, to Atlanta to cast it. So that's going to be fun. Starts on Friday, as you would usually expect. And actually, it's not up on the TL calendar yet, so
a little earlier than like it starts at 10 a.m. on Friday instead of noon. And I feel like generally the show starts at noon local time, so I guess don't miss out. Wake up earlier.
I don't know if the broadcast starts then. Sometimes they start the tournament and then they don't have us come on until later. Okay. So that might be what's happening. I haven't looked at the schedule that intently. All I did was check out what times the show matches were. But then apparently Tasteless on his video said that it was before the finals. So
yes.
The show match is at 10 to noon, and then the finals start at noon on Sunday. Something like that.
Yeah, but I think that means like the final day. Not like the best of 7 finals.
Yes.
So there's some maybe this.
Oh, it's at the very beginning of the day, you mean?
Yeah. It starts at 11 local time. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry. The semifinal one starts at 2. It starts at 3 p.m. 2:45. Okay. So we have a very late start on Sunday.
That is interesting.
I guess we can get shit faced on Saturday night, guys. Good job. Thank you, Tasteless and Artosis.
Because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. First big ESL offline event.
Excited, but
now's the time.
Obviously. Well, I was going to say that I don't think the StormGate is the reason why it starts so late. They must have just decided that. Because the StormGate stuff's only going to be 2 hours. The StormGate stuff only going to be 2 hours, though, isn't it?
They have it scheduled for like 2.5. 11 local to... No, never mind. I'm sorry. It's 2 hours.
Yeah, 11 to 1.
It's only... I think it's because there are only 3 series on Sunday, so...
Yeah.
You want to... Although, you would think they would do that earlier then, right? Because something starting at 9 p.m. European time missed out on a lot of European viewers.
Yeah, usually the American events actually start like earlier. So we have to go to bed early. I remember that distinctly. But then you have all of Sunday night to go hang out. So they've changed that. I don't remember what they did last year, but then I would not have bothered doing all of the calculations necessary because I was in Stockholm, not Atlanta. So that's what I remember from doing like Montreal and stuff. So I don't know why they changed it, but apparently they did.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is it's going to be fun. I'm excited about it. I mean, wait, no, I'm not allowed to say that anymore. Apparently, I'm just excited about too many things, ZombieGrub. So
yeah,
I'm mediocre about it. It's not going to happen. Going to be milk toast on this RTS.
I don't know if you're using the word milk toast correctly.
Milk toast? What's that? Kind of boring.
No, but it means kind of like a pushover. Like the cartoon character was like a pushover. I don't think it just means like indifferent or ambivalent.
Noun, a timid or feeble person. Adjective, feeble, insipid, or bland.
Very timid. It says very timid, and assertive, spineless person, especially one who is easily dominated or intimidated.
Wow, I'm definitely getting that wrong then.
I'm
gonna be boring. Okay,
there you go. I use the term, wreck face, or not wreck face. I said wrecking the base, wreaking havoc. There we go, wrecking havoc. I said wrecking havoc, and someone corrected me.
I was gonna say that description right on point with your sport preferences, potentially.
What do you think my sport preferences are?
No. I mean, be a move.
Wait. Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The Quidditch.
Wait. Not that this is selling Quidditch here, but I know of more people that have gotten hurt playing Quidditch than playing several other sports.
Yeah, because they're all like frail nerds who like just kind of.
Wow.
Because they're all milk toast.
Wow.
Damn.
I
We're
did not
coming at
come here.
Quidditch.
Is this when I hang up? Like, I did not come here to get shit upon.
Yeah.
You said you're milk toast. Okay.
That was fair.
Right,
You
it's
know
true.
what? I did invite that.
I've never
Um,
heard someone say the term "shit upon." That just
Shit
that makes
upon.
me smile.
Sorry,
Yeah.
should I
Shit on.
have said shat upon?
No, just like
Shit
get
on.
shit on.
Yeah.
Get shit on.
Yeah, you
Shit
like
upon
added
is
like a
so
pinky
formal.
out for that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh yes, I did not come to this call to be shit upon, sir. I will be off to the masturbatorium.
Yeah. So this is apparently starting to just make fun of Behemoth. I was trying to say that I noticed a grammatical error in the Kickstarter for StormGate. Now that we're going to talk about StormGate. But
Oh.
because I recently did it, because I took a long time to remember not to do it, and then I fell into old habits, I said wreck havoc, which is wrong. It's wreak havoc.
Mhm.
And then I noticed on the StormGate Kickstarter, guess what it says?
I mean, they do have justification for this. Because I run Stormgate Nexus, so I was like scrolling through the comments and if there's anything useful, right? And their explanation was it's a pun because you're wreaking havoc, but you're also wrecking the ion cannon on the other side. So
That
I don't know if
sounds
it holds
less like a pun and more they're like, oh, no, I knew. Like, it was,
water. I know, right?
we meant it. Sure, that's what I should have done too. And that guy called me out. No, you don't understand. It was just like pun. Anyways,
See, ZombieGrub, with that one though, you can just get away with. Oh yeah, that's just it. I know what it means. I'm just pronouncing it. It's just a regionalism. I come.
it's
from,
a regionalism. That's
it's a
also a good
regionalism.
excuse.
I'm very Dutch. You cannot make fun of me or being racist.
There's only two people I hate in this world.
People that are intolerant of other people's cultures and the Dutch.
What is that from?
Austin Powers.
Gold member, the third one.
It's great jokes. All right, guys, let's talk about Atlanta, the actual thing that is happening. So we did have regionals finish. I think we did talk about it in our last show a little bit, but now we got everyone collected together. We also got the player list. So I did peruse that yesterday because someone asked if Skillless was going to be able to attend, and I just honestly wasn't sure. So I looked, and fortunately, not only is he able to attend, which is great, but is actually going, got a spot. So yeah. For those unaware, he does have a Dutch esports visa. He's the first player to get it.
For
So-
any country, right?
Yeah,
like
for any country.
like worldwide. It was the first time any esport, any country. Very cool.
Yeah, exactly. So that seems to be doing him some good. Because I think, honestly, like if he did only have a Russian visa, there'd be some problems. But fortunately, he is going. We also have the open sign-up list complete. There is definitely some worry over whether or not there'd be enough spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, I, for one, don't know who we're missing. I haven't
Well,
combed through it
Alex
that
a lot
much.
of
said-
people want to sign up. Yeah, it's very I mean, it depends, right? Like where you draw the line, I guess. But for example, Silky signed up, but he said if I don't get in, I'll be happy anyway. So Silky's probably like right about about the cutoff for people. But I imagine a lot more people signed up than could actually get to play.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
Alex said every single player that had at least one EPT point was able to get
Yeah.
a spot.
Mhm.
So,
cool.
I mean, that's pretty good.
That-
Like, it's not
Although-
perfect, but at least we aren't seeing players that, came top 4 in an EPT Cup or, I don't know, top 16 in a regional qualifier. Like, at least we're not seeing players like that miss out. Like, that would have been
Yeah.
really fucking sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we are missing Vanya, Wayne, although that's a Russian visa thing, probably. We're missing
Almost definitely.
Firefly, who also had, because he's never left China, apparently that's a longer process. So that became a problem. So, like,
And let's make it clear before we go any further, this was not ESL's fault this
Mhm.
time. This was this was like a no fault situation for ESL. Sorry, go on.
yeah, no, it was something about he needed proof of income and some other stuff. And I was hearing, yeah, ESL sent the stuff as soon as they could.
Yeah.
So we are missing at least 2 that I can think of just off the top of my head, 2 EPT point players who could have made decent runs. That for
Especially Firefly.
geopolitical
Firefly,
issues.
yeah.
Dude, I'm so sad about Firefly.
Okay.
I've been kind of mentally, yeah, we've all been mentally prepping for this for a while. I've just been like, Firefly's my story. Firefly's my story. He's gonna make a deep run. I'm gonna be talking about Firefly the entire 3 days. You know, he's gonna be good. Maybe not Sunday. Maybe he doesn't hit top 4. And then the visa issues.
Well, I think it would have been like there's no way Firefly was going to make top 4.
Yeah.
I don't know about no way. Oliveira won the world championship, then Firefly.
Outside shot.
Yeah, but Oliveira's mechanics are a lot cleaner than Firefly's. Like I would actually be over the moon if Firefly did it, but I don't think. I don't it's like what it takes to get top 8 at an offline tournament like that is like such a. You need to be on such a crazy level just to be able to get to that final 8. And also Firefly's never competed in an offline tournament.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. At least Oliveira was I mean, for so long, really a very good player. Like, don't get me wrong, I always will say that it was just a miracle run. Some people hate when I do that, but it's the truth. But I also think that there's at least some more backing than like. Actually, I think a better example would have been like Haas's run, actually, in Austin years and years ago. What is it, Valencia, whatever it was.
Run.
But yeah, I think it was Valencia. I think it was Valencia. Was it 2019 or 2018?
2018. It was Cyril's 4.
Yeah,
and he almost got lost 2 games to Haas.
2 games too, right? 2-4.
Yeah, it was 2-4.
Yeah.
Mana's run in Poland was also very, very cool.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But both of these are players that had
Firefly,
a ton.
Right? Firefly, you're selling him short. Like, look at his match history.
No, I'm not
creator, though. 2-0 Gumiho. No.
Steadfast. No. But I
don't think he is either.
Max packs.
Because the point is that he is only doing it recently.
Yes,
and he hasn't had that years of experience and years of being.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The secret good Terran.
I agree with that, but you don't know how he's going to react to the crowd. Like, he may be unaffected, or he might even grow from it.
All right. Well, if we're going to do that, then technically there is a 0.00001 chance that $1 million will land in my lap.
Hey, you know what? There's
it
a
is
statistical
possible.
Probability that I get sucked out of this chair right now and go into orbit around Jupiter. You know, like
if
the
tournament wasn't already so stacked, I would say top 4. I actually think top 8 would have been possible for Firefly, but
100%.
The difference for me between top 4 and top 8, when you look at the level of players that are here, just in the top 16 alone, like Cure, Cyril, Beyond, Raynor, Dark, Solar, who's surging, Showtime, Clem. Like, these are players that are going to be a wall, you know? And, like, in order to get through that wall, I'm not saying Firefly can't do it, but I'm saying the level of, like, kind of lightning in a bottle you would need to capture to be able to beat more than 2 of them. And you probably would have to beat more than 2 of them to get a top 4 run, would be really, 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 really difficult for a first-time LAN competitor, especially when you're also traveling to a time zone that's like 12 hours different, because China to Atlanta is like exact flip.
Yeah.
Like, it is literally the farthest you can be away from your own comfort zone. Sorry?
I don't disagree. It's extremely unlikely. I just think he has it in him to beat anyone there, maybe except for like a couple people.
I would put, okay, when I say it's impossible, what I mean is it's about 1%. Like, maybe lower than that.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's 1%, realistically, just the way he's been playing. But Steadfast, all I'm hearing, you're listing these players, I'm hearing a bunch of washed players and the new hotness, you know? When was the last time that Maru won a tournament, for example?
I didn't include Maru in the list.
Yeah, he didn't actually.
I heard ZombieGrub say it. I'm sorry. When was the last time that Cure won a tournament?
I think very recently, no? Or he's at least had 2 GSL finals.
Hey, no, I didn't ask about GSL finals. I asked the last time he won a tournament.
I don't give a shit. He's got that offline thing, and that's the other thing. That's like a proof of my point. How long has Cure been an uber top level player and still hasn't been able to win a tournament?
Yeah, actually, this is actually kind of insane. Like, Firefly is not the only player in existence to have a pretty good run of players in a month of online tournaments. But you don't just call everyone who's ever had that a potential top 4 at a international
Well,
premier tournament.
It's more like he's hyped, like he's on the rise.
Oh,
he's on the
yeah,
rise
no one
quickly,
disagrees
and
with
we don't
that,
get
though.
very often, yeah.
I'm gonna be
Like,
hyped.
we don't get that often, you know. Like we get that with Clems and we get that with Max Paxes and Trigger to some degree, but we don't really see that anymore. So it's like he is the new hotness. Like,
And I think also the reason that he's exciting to me, and again, we're talking about a player that's not going to be here, is that he's not winning because he's got incredible micro or whatever. He's winning because his brain is just bigger than everyone else's. You know, he's
so true.
doing such a good job
It's
of
so fun to watch.
countering the meta, really responding perfectly, doing these things. And I'm not going to say he reminds me of Cyril from before Cyril was good, because that's too high of a bar probably. But again, it's a lot of the stuff. He sees a small thing, he reacts to it perfectly. He does that. You know, it's on the scouting, it's on the preparation, and it's on this creative Protoss play, which
It's like an
you know,
SOS. It's like
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say SOS. Actually, he reminds me of an SOS with better mechanics.
mhm.
Like
SOS.
much better mechanics. Speaking of which, SOS actually was playing
Dude.
out of his fucking mind in the qualifier. I'm really rooting for
Still
him.
got 3-1 by Firefly.
He still did, but the game that he won, was like one of the sickest. Oh my god, it was such a good PvP. It was actually so sick.
Sounds like Hope talking about how Firefly's not good, but
No,
No,
I'm
okay,
kidding,
but
Steadfast.
it's
I know.
it's such a different thing to be competing offline versus online. Like I was always downplaying that before, and now I see like it is such a huge difference. Like you really cannot overstate how big of a deal it is to play in front of a crowd and play where you're not comfortable anymore.
I just roll my eyes a little bit. I mean, I'm all for being excited about a new player, and I think he is playing well. But there have been so many cases of that, and it's like, you know, like Clem even has had that like almost every single tournament until he finally did it at Gamers 8. And it's like,
And then he got 3-0'd in the next round.
there's well, yeah, and
Oh,
there's
home story comp,
for
right?
me, there's just like no point to like overhype someone, I guess. Yeah, especially when they're not there. I feel like we're
Yeah, and I do want to make it clear as well that like I'm actually on board the Firefly hype train.
sure.
Like I really, really love him as a player, and I actually do see him as like a future superstar who
Yeah.
could win premier tournaments. But he needs more experience. Like I just, and that's the thing. I'm saying this wanting to be proven wrong.
Yeah, but we're not going to get proven wrong in Atlantic. He's not going. Apparently, the other person who is missing, who I didn't really think of, but Special isn't on the list.
Oh,
Also, Hero. Or Special for the for the Open. My bad.
wait, we're talking about Atlanta. Or we're talking about Katowice.
Atlanta.
Katowice still has qualifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Specials. I know specials in the closed qualifiers for Katowice. That's why I was.
Yeah, no, we're talking about Atlanta. The topic of the show. But Hero is part of the open signups.
Yeah,
Special
that was
is not going. I don't know if there were some issues with something on his end or he actually couldn't get through. But I would actually be really surprised if he tried and couldn't get through. And then we proceeded not to hear a single thing on Twitter about it. That's just my perspective. I feel like Special would have brought something up. So I'm assuming it's kind of more on his end. Obviously, he didn't win Americas, but it has gotten more difficult. And then I do believe he had to leave Korea. So that's been something, I guess, that's ongoing for him as well. So that's kind of sad, though. Definitely a prominent foreign Terran that we all like to cheer for. But then otherwise, I wasn't seeing too many names missing. And I started off saying this and didn't really clarify, but I don't see too many names missing that you would expect to be competitive and hope would play, I guess is kind of a brutal way to say it, but that's the way I'm going to say it. Like if Joe Schmo 64 had gotten the spot instead of like a Patty Mac or a Trigger, right? Like, really like the two difference, like Patty Mac is a solid North American player, but Trigger is someone we expected to do really well. If Joe Schmo 69 got a spot over either one of them, I would have been upset. But it really, you don't see anyone. I mean, the least known player is probably Shin or Zane,
No,
maybe.
that's Ragnarok.
Shin is
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. He changed his freaking name. So Zane, I guess, is like the least well known one.
Or Foxer, maybe.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, they're probably about on.
Yeah, because so few people do watch like North American
Yeah.
Open qualifiers and
Well,
stuff.
I was gonna say also this was literally Fox's first season qualifying for the regionals. So, because has Zane ever played in the regionals? Maybe I'm not
He
giving
has.
the,
No, he hasn't played in a regional. Sorry, but he's played in the qualifiers, obviously.
okay.
So, but anyway, so that's really like more so was my point. Like, I know there are some people who wanted to play, and that was my second point that I wanted to talk about. Like, we still have a open sign up problem for the most attended event in StarCraft, and that's what we were talking about. Kind of sucks about it anyway. Like there was a chance someone who could make a good run and get EPT points was going to miss out. So we did discuss that thoroughly. I don't really think that's happened. But then the other point we were talking about back when we first heard that Atlanta was going to have a limited number of open signups was just that it takes a lot of the fun factor away for some people. Like back when it was, 80, 90, 100, 200, whatever it was allowed to be in the open signups. Maybe it was a bring your own computer, whatever it was, which they do have a bring your own computer thing going on. But still, like there's a chance that you'd be put into a group with, someone else who wasn't very good, but then you'd be put in there with like a Future and a Hearthstone, and you'd be like, oh my god, like I love Hearthstone, I love his content, I get to play against them, and that doesn't happen here anymore. You can play in the bring your own computer open thing that I believe they do have going on, but it is different. So that's just kind of sad because DreamHack Atlanta seems to be once again like the most attended. I don't know, I'm not there for the ticket sales, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that is just the unfortunate thing about having to downsize. But it's been very clear that apparently it is like a huge cost to increase this open sign-up thing.
Like, I think two things that I want to bring up. One, last Atlanta, it felt like it was the first North American event in a very long time, and it also felt like it could be the last North American event that we would have for StarCraft. So I feel like that was a big driver in how much attendance we had. So now I'm wondering, can we actually expect the same amount of attendance? Like just from the feelers that I'm sending out, like it feels like a lot of people are still going, but certain people that went last time are certainly not, obviously. So I'm wondering what that's gonna be like. I wouldn't expect it to be as packed as last time, but I would love to be.
There's also a certain amount of people who didn't go because they didn't remember, they didn't realize, they were still scared of COVID. And then they were also maybe a bit ambivalent, and then they saw how cool it was, and they really regretted not going. So
the other elephant in the room is that it's 5 days till Christmas, right? Like it is. Maybe that's easier travel. Like the days before Christmas are some of the busiest travel days of the year. But how many people? I think I've talked to some people who said, "Yeah, I want to go, but it's right before Christmas, and I can't swing that. That doesn't make sense."
Oh, it's a week before Christmas. I haven't heard that personally, but that is something to consider. It's a little bit closer. It's still not the major travel weekend, but
no.
Flights weren't so expensive when I was checking. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up, and everyone might want to brace for this, is because ZombieGrub was talking about Korea. I thought Korea. Oh yeah, the house in Korea, the foreign house in Korea is dead. It's gone. So that happened like last week sometime where, Scarlett and Estrella had to move out. They were the last people remaining there. I know that Rainer had like plans to go. Or wanted to go anyway, and win a GSL and stuff like that. So it's pretty sad because it's been running for a very, very long time. But yeah, it just ceased to make sense, and they had this thing with some problems with the landlord, and it just didn't make sense for them to look for a different space. So yeah, that happened.
That is unfortunate. I think you brought it up because I brought up Special and his presence in Korea. Pretty sure Special's presence in Korea is unrelated, but
unrelated. It just popped ahead.
Yeah. That is kind of sad to hear, but then I feel like I don't know. It hasn't been the foreigner team house in a long time anyway. Like as far as an orchestrated effort to like get people over and make content and get them to prepare for a GSL season for a few years at this point. Well, I guess because COVID kind of messed up. So what does it mean by a few years? But for a while, it has been the house that is gotten by the people who love staying in Korea and often has room for other people who stay in Korea. I don't I don't actually think that's going to change too much. Like, I don't know Scarlett's exact plan, but I know I talked to her, and
she's in Canada. She's going to Canada after.
Yeah, I know she's in Canada. And I get the idea that like right now it's gone, but I know I was talking to her and Estrella about their plans for the future, and it sucks that they got kicked out by like the landlord and had problems there, but that's also not uncommon because of the way they have to do it. But rather that I know that I was there even to suggest that they look into like a nomad visa, because Estrella likes Korea, but Scarlett like loves Korea, would love to live there. So now that a nomad visa is possible, it was actually introduced like last year for Korea. Digital nomad, sorry. There's avenues for them to continue staying, because one of the problems that Estrella and Scarlett and sort of actually were discussing when I was with dinner with them is just like apparently the visa that they currently had is like it ran out of time, like they're too old or something. I don't know. They were talking about their age, and then they were talking about trying to figure out how like they could actually stay there. And then I was like, well, there's a nomad visa now, and they're like, oh. So I guess what I'm saying is, it seems like right now, like that plan to have people in Korea and then let other people stay in that place in Korea might be gone. But I wouldn't be surprised if in the future they once again pick up like a 2-bedroom apartment in Korea and then allow someone to stay there. So
Yeah, because that's more of like you were saying, like of what it was. Like I know that people have been visiting like here and there. Like Future was there recently, and yeah, Stray and Sasha were there for a long while. And again, like Raynor wanted to go and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we don't really have team houses anymore at all, right? It feels like so that's really just kind of the way it goes. And yeah, I mean, I hope they can bring it back. I asked her to make a tweet about it, but she didn't. She said, I don't really use Twitter. So,
yeah, that's not surprising. I mean, I don't know if it really is tweet worthy. I feel like it hasn't been the Foreigner house in a very long time. I'd actually be surprised.
I feel like when No Regret left, the content kind of stopped because he was the main driver of that. Yeah, but that's just that we don't see it, because Sasha and Future and Estrella are not gonna care about content, right? But they're still there and they're still practicing and they're still like trying to qualify for the GSL and they're still doing their thing, right? So in that sense, I don't think that much like had like changed. Maybe the amount of people that were going. But yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure it wasn't producing content since Jake left, I think.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like the ideal that was set up by, I mean, even back when Base Trade TV helped kind of started, has been lost for a long time, even by the community. I don't think the community really realized it was even going on. I mean, I think I've had to explain
I see.
plenty of times to my viewers, like whether or not someone's in Korea. And then if I say yes, they're in Korea, they'll be like, oh, is it the Foreigner house? And I'll be like, well, so I don't know.
It does feel like it lost its identity a while ago.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the point when I think of the Foreigner house, I think of a place where people go if they want to qualify for the GSL. There's no association with content or anything. It's just like, oh, okay, you know what, we're gonna go practice in Korea. It's the
that's
the training stage.
Yeah, that's how I thought about it too. Like, I mean, for a while, it's funny because Jess started basically with Base Trade to some degree. Like at some point, it was also the root house in Korea for like half a year or so. Well, Jake was on root and we were running that. So like, I don't know. Like, it still feels sad for me and bad and but yeah, like I get it. Like for most people, I guess nothing really changes.
Yeah, and it's still, even though it's a better option for people to stay in Korea because you know that you're getting a certain amount of space, you know you're getting a computer, you know you're getting good internet. Like, I don't know, the option to stay in Korea to still attend GSL is there if you really wanted to. Like, it is not impossible to find an Airbnb or short-term housing. Reach out to the contacts you do still have in Korea. I speak from experience. So there is that if it really wanted to happen. But I guess, the elephant in the room that's like now a small elephant, I suppose, is that, Korea is not really a place to be anyways. And winning a GSL does not have the impact that it used to. I think people were hanging on to its old impact and prestige last year. I thought it was actually already not that impressive. But then this year, it seems like everyone has agreed. Like, cheers, of course. Like, oh, great, well done, awesome. Solar finally got his GSL victory. But
it's not. It has the same name. It's not the GSL anymore. It's the Korean tournament. It's the Korean
regional.
GSL regional. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's
The balanced test
that's
tournament.
that's been a sad process, I
Development.
think, too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not with a bang, but with a whimper. So there's been some more probably stages of grief haven't been gone through already, I suppose, too. Where if it was obviously end of GSL 2023, after it, you know, still had a lot of new faces and excellent storylines, and the Foreigner House dissolved, then it'd be like, this would be the time to grieve on this talk show. But I don't know if that's the case for a lot of people, which is obviously very sad. And a lot of the Korean scene is really, really hoping for StormGate to work out. But yet again, that's actually not time when we talk about it. We got so sidetracked, but in a good way. I think that was still pertinent. I still think that was a good discussion, but it did stem from special going to DreamHack Atlanta. Yes, I'm glad you guys saw my cat go crazy. So the people who are going to DreamHack Atlanta include basically all the people you would expect. Unfortunately, not Firefly, as he replaced by Cyan. But then we also have, I guess, the regionals to talk about. You know, we did have a couple of, I suppose, surprises. I mean, if you want to call them that. Showtime getting top 4 was obviously a good result for him. So many Wikipedia tabs, good lord.
Talk about Showtime.
There we go.
Talk about how tilted I am about that run.
Oh,
Like-
at Home Story Cup?
At Home Story Cup?
Yeah, and also realistically, his games against Raynor as well. At least
You
game
mean,
4
oh,
there.
you
I'm
mean in
just
the
like,
regionals as well?
yeah, in the upper bracket when he goes against Raynor like that. I'm not saying he wins the series, but that should have at least gone to game 5. It was. He could be doing so much better. He could be doing so much better.
I mean, there's just nothing Protoss players can do against Zerg, you know? It's just an impossible matchup. What can you say? Like,
Oh no, they've been beaten down by 7 years of not winning, and therefore that's why
Yeah,
they make mistakes.
exactly. Yeah, it's clearly got nothing to do with the actual plays in front of our fucking eyes.
I like
where
the
Showtime
idea.
forgets a Nexus exists in the middle of the map.
No.
It's
Just-
because Zerg
just-
is too strong.
Here it
He just
is.
has a Warp Prism sitting on top of his army and doesn't save any Eye Templar or the Immortals over 3 minutes.
Here it is, guys. What it is that Protoss players are literally so used to losing. It's like watching a marathon runner get in first place by like a minute and then just stopping short of the finish line and being like, no, something's wrong here. Just letting everyone
Something's
else
wrong.
pass them by. They're like,
This is an
isn't-
unfamiliar
yeah.
feeling. It must be an injury.
This is
I
some
better
Final
turn around
Destination shit. If I cross this line, I'm gonna just get like picked up by the aircraft carrier and sent on outer space.
Like, it's not just Showtime. Hearthstone did it too against Raynor.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually probably even more egregious in the regionals.
Yeah. It is. But the thing is that it can't be the bar and the bike wheel meme because the Protoss players are so hesitant to blame anyone else but themselves. Like, it does feel like they have been beaten down so much that they could clearly be in the right, and they'd be like, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did wrong.
No, so it's the
That's just
you
the right
switch the
attitude.
panels in the bar and the bike, so they're going and they're like, wait, I'm losing, and then you stick the bar and the bike in.
Yeah, it's
You
something.
swap the panels.
The thing is, though, I actually, like, as much as we're talking about this, I actually am really, really encouraged for Showtime because, like, he has now been in a winning position against one of the best players in the world multiple times with some very, very small adjustments in some really high intensity, like high tension, high pressure matches where, like, and I'm especially talking about Home Story Cup, like, literally, it is the easiest little adjustment and he wins the series. You know, like, I'm actually looking at that with a lot of, yes, it was a huge brain fart. Yes, it was a really sad thing that happened. I'm actually looking at it with more like encouragement than anything. Like, Showtime is so close to taking that next step. And I would really love to see him show up at Atlanta and just kick the shit out of people. I would love to see that.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
I would be all for. I don't think any of us are going to. I don't think anyone would complain if that happens, especially because Showtime is like the most honorable Protoss ever. He's not, somewhat. He's not the reason that people for years have hated Protoss. I mean, I think we're okay with it now, but he's not the guy that's putting 3 gates in your main base and trying to. Although that also didn't work.
Maybe he needs to be more of that guy to really squeeze some of these wins.
Maybe.
I mean, but again, Cat's like he probably wins that series in Home Story Cup 4-1. You know, if he doesn't keep
Sure.
making mistakes.
Yeah, but we're still like we're hyped because Showtime is doing well against Raynor, but also this is not the best form that Raynor shows up to, right? Like when Home
That's
Story
true.
Cup, he's just chilling. Like this regionals, he's never like really turned up. Like aside from when he was like on the rise himself, like it's usually offline tournaments, and when he prepares and when he announces, hey, like I'm playing a lot, I'm gonna win this shit. Then you better believe that he's on his best form. For these tournaments, like I don't feel like he's necessarily, but yeah, like not to sell Showtime short or anything, but I don't think we're seeing the best trainer as of right now.
Actually,
I think, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, go, CG, you say, I think we're
Yeah.
about to say the same thing.
Maybe because Raynor actually seems really down about his gameplay. He's been talking about how he's like, like I don't know, my Protoss isn't that great, but my Zerg isn't that great either right now, LMAO. So I think he's definitely not in his Gamers 8 mode. I mean, Gamers 8 is basically, I think, the maxed out potential of like almost any StarCraft player. That shit was insane. But
Yeah.
you don't practice all your time and ask people to do 1v4 Archon modes every single day and whatnot, and you're not going to get the same result. So I do think it's a case of Showtime continuing to creep forward, but he does so very slowly. He's not, a big rise player like Raynor was in the past, where he just like suddenly shot up and then he was really good. But then Raynor also coming down a couple levels, and maybe the patch a little bit too, because Zerg has had some adjustments to make. So, which might be a good thing, by the way. I just wanted to throw that in there, get the drama started. But yeah, as far as the players go, I think it's kind of a. And then if it is Raynor at his full form, it might go back to what it used to be.
I want to make a small addendum to that. You said Zerg has some adjustments to make. Zerg players were about to go on stage to perform, a seven song set, and then some guy ran up and kicked them in the groin. And then they were like, all right, go get him, folk. Go get him, Tiger. Like, it was a big hit. It was not a small thing. Like, there's going to be some big adjustments to make. Like, Zerg got smashed with the Nerf hammer in particularly PvZ, like CVP PvZ. It was big.
They're kind of at the same point where TVP was in Heart of the Swarm, right? Where it's like, just play like Maru. Just play like Cyril. And
just play like Cyril, yeah. Speaking of
maybe
which,
not that far, but
so our points were actually, they could not have been more different because yes, Raynor was not looking super necessarily on point, but he then won the first ever match again, not first ever, first in 2 years, beating Cyril in late game PvZ.
Oh, I don't know exactly.
I don't know.
Sure.
Classic beat Cyril late game PvZ at Gamers 8.
No, he didn't beat him in late game. He beat him in early game twice. He beat him early mid game.
Wasn't there
the late game was the one where Classic was a million miles ahead, and he threw away 138 zealots, and Cyril defended like an absolute god and won that game. That was
true,
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic won a mid game, and then he defended an all in from Cyril. He played extremely well, but the one late game he actually lost, and it was from a huge advantage too. Like Cyril just played the way we're used to seeing Cyril playing. And yeah.
Well, going back to your point, you're talking about Raynor's PvZ.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like that's not the complete opposite point. That actually kind of still backs up my point, because at the end of the day, Raynor is not feeling so great about Zerg that he decides to play a different race and practice with a different race more so.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think the points are still basically the same. It is absolutely impressive. Yeah, it's absolutely impressive that Raynor is still, the talented, skillful beast that he is, that he could play Protoss at such a high level, as to be one of the few to take down Cyril. Not even late game, just like in general ZVP. But it kind of is a weird place to like judge his skill. So I don't know. I have made some jokes about Raynor actually being the secret Protoss hope, and everyone is gonna have to copy him. But I didn't want to disrespect the Protoss players too much. But again, they've been so browbeaten. They probably are like, yeah, you're right. Like we aren't smart.
I think it is one of those things that and I think I've said this before. where Protoss players feel like they're missing some innovation. They're missing some people to push the race forward. You had Hero come back and he did it for a year. You had Max Pax occasionally do it, but it feels like Protoss play, and now we're seeing Firefly do it, which is super exciting. Everyone, we're seeing a lot of people start to play like Firefly. But it feels like for the most part, it feels like Protoss advances in fits and starts, where there's this more kind of smooth meta development from Terran and Protoss, or Terran and Zerg, where they push each other forward and the meta develops and it evolves and there's a new build, but there's a response. And Protoss gets stuck in these metas for longer than they should. And then it's like, well, they do well for a month and then they crash back down again until someone comes up from nowhere or returns from the military and breathes new life, and then they get caught in the meta as well. So Raynor coming in and playing Protoss like a Zerg, maybe that's the shot in the arm they need, the shot of adrenaline just before Atlanta. I don't know. It's the new idea.
I mean, I don't hate it. Yeah, I think to your point, like Protoss is definitely the race that will always have to be the trickiest. And a lot of the people that are successful with Protoss, like you name them, right? Like they tend to be somewhat innovative, more so than Terrans and Zergs in particular. Terrans have had periods where they're all doing the same thing for a while, and it's just a matter of execution and like how you control the army and stuff like that. Protoss always has to stay a little bit tricky, and that's kind of like a strength as well for Raynor, right? Because his Protoss can't be really studied like everyone else's can be studied. So he shows up, he shows some tricks, some curveballs, and obviously that's going to help him out because that's a strength of Protoss, is the tech.
I don't think it, but like the game he won against Sarah wasn't curveballs. Like it was, it was just the best late game PvZ we've seen. Probably since stats at his absolute peak. Probably since the best form of stats we've ever seen. And you'd have to do like a super detailed statistical analysis to even actually compare those. This is all just gut feeling, but like we haven't seen a Protoss player play the late game like that.
Then it's not, then you can't account for it that much, right? It's kind of like the thing with Serral as well. It's like when he gets to late game, like a lot of players, like for example, I was talking to Clem about this, right? In the TVC matchup, and like how difficult it is to prepare for Serral because he's the only Zerg from Clem's perspective that is willing to take it to the late game and that is happy and comfortable in the late game, right? So that's a different problem when you face someone that is like, it might not seem crazy, but it is still kind of out of the norm when someone can execute at a better level and is more comfortable in the late game than other Protosses might be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about is that the Mothership has made a couple of appearances recently in PvT, and it's looked very useful. And I'm just gonna toot my own horn for that it's a viable unit, and it's not gonna be overpowered, probably, but it's good. And Protoss players are starting to use it, and like it, I don't know, like I actually do think that this patch might be it. Like it might have fixed the issues. It still seems really tough. Okay, I actually have one thing that I think might be a little bit too strong. Late game +2 Liberators with range in TVP. I think you need to subtract 1 from the range upgrade. That's it. I think that's the only thing you need to do, maybe. It's super, super strong once Terran gets up to those +2 Liberators. But now that Raven pushes are like way less frequent, like Protoss has a much more stable mid game. Doesn't feel so bad for Protoss these days from what I've seen.
Yep,
that or kind of reduce or increase the supply by 1. Something it needs something just so they're not it. I honestly, Steadfast, I don't even think it's you have like 6 Liberators. That's starting to become an issue, but it's when you get like 12, 15 Liberators, there's just it's not even that the range is bad, but it's just that there are too many zones that they do, and it does too much damage. That
for me, it's not so much I think it's also a problem that you can send 1 Liberator to harass a base, and the response against it in the super late game is like disproportionately difficult to deal with. And there's a lot of situations where like you need a Void Ray or a Phoenix Like stalkers are literally just not going to clear it in certain positions, and I don't think it's necessarily bad to need a void ray, but like I don't know. I think, and maybe the solution is supply, but I think like the range is a really big problem, just because the amount it can zone out without exposing itself, it seems really too strong. But that's just my opinion. I like people may disagree, and they're welcome to it.
Totally. I think we're in agreement though that something needs to happen. It's just we've seen Max Packs try to play late game Sky Toss against it. That doesn't seem all that great because Sky Toss is super slow and you still have the mobility of the rest of the army. Ground Toss, on some maps you can maneuver, but not every map. You can't kind of yoink the Terran around. It does feel like it needs something. I do agree.
Well, I will say that I don't think I've seen Max Packs play Sky Toss super well against it yet. Because I've seen some players that actually can handle Sky Toss really well, and they've made it look quite good. I don't know. I think
was it against, like, when I look at this though, when we talk about, I see Clem, and Clem makes it look super imbalanced, and I see other Terran players it doesn't look quite as broken. So for my litmus test here, I'm looking at Max Packs versus Clem, not Max Packs versus Hero Marine or Max Packs versus Cure or something. I was specifically looking at Clem, who seems to have figured out TVP more than anyone else right now.
It doesn't necessarily matter who it's against if one of the players isn't doing the strategy as well as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't even really consider balance if. Yeah. Now obviously there's like ease of execution and all that jazz, but I think it's important to note that if one player executes a strategy poorly and the other player executes it well, you kind of have to throw that becomes an invalid argument for any kind of balance discussion or complaint.
Not necessarily, because one could argue that it's kind of the issue with like Zerg late game, for example, where if there's a composition that's that much harder to execute, that is also kind of like you have to play perfectly on one side and you don't have to play as well on the other. That's also a balanced consideration, but I get where you're coming from.
Great. So we're going to move on from the Liberator discussion, which is back to the Atlanta. So, sorry, this is Home Story Cup. We were talking about the late game PvZ. So Atlanta has some of the setup already ready to go. So open stage obviously doesn't have anyone seated or placed in the bracket quite yet, but we do have the format. There you go, the format. They've changed it a little bit. They changed like the broadcasting a little bit after feedback from Yang Shiping, which I think is good on them. But we still have the four brackets that consist of an upper and a lower. Yesterday was the first time I saw something actually called a mid bracket, by the way. We had a 7th qualification spot in Europe. And I was like, the lower. And then I looked at Wikipedia and it was like mid. And I was like, that's a good word for lower. But anyway, just an upper and a lower for the 4 brackets here as the open slot players do contest. I think we have some strong suspects who we think are actually going to advance. Any dark horses or whatever you want to call it. I think we expect Hero, we expect Trigger, Scarlet, Ragnarok, who changed his name for God knows what reason. Why do pros do this? Hero Marine, Lambo or Laser, both probably. We kind of have some of our most promising suspects, but any spicy takes, especially because we can't talk about Firefly.
Are we talking spicy takes to get out of the open bracket, or
yes.
Spicy takes? Okay.
Shut down.
Cham can do it depending on the matchup if we want spicy.
Nightmare maybe? Doing it again?
I don't think Nightmare's even that spicy though. I think he's like a soft dark horse. Like I actually, because how many people make it out of this? It's
2 per bracket, so
okay. I have a real spicy. I don't know if they make it out, but I think could cause an upset. Reaper.
Oh, Reaper could do some real. Reaper could ruin some people's Atlanta trips.
I mean, I think that's true of a lot of the NA players, right? Did they get out?
Mm,
No.
It's truest for Reaper. No.
It's true.
Truest
It's
by
it's
far
so,
for Reaper. Yeah.
It's you could add all the NA players upset
Like there's
potential
future, but you
together.
could argue he's like leveled up. Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
put Dolan in there. Maybe he's got some funky builds, but
Nah.
if
maybe.
someone comes in and they're not expecting a Dolan build, maybe.
The thing is,
I mean,
Dolan
Uko
did Dolan
probably not
builds
gonna
to
do it.
Hero, and that means Hero's gonna tell Nightmare, Creator, and all the Korean Protosses about it. And Dolan's builds are all best against Protoss.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
And the thing is, he could have actually had some builds ready to go, and he could have maybe gotten matched against a Hero in the first round and done what he did in the ESL Open Cup, but done it there. And then it'd be like, he's the most legendary / I mean, depending on who you ask, maybe hated player at that point for possibly knocking Hero out. But like, it would have been the big story of the tournament for the first 2 days, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like the takes. But I guess now that we have discussed, how many people are going to make it through, it's 8 players to the knockout round 1. Just if you guys need a reminder as to how this works.
And as I'm counting this,
Where's the
like
knockout?
if we just look at the players that are pro players, right? Not semi-pro, not whatever. There
That is-
are more so there's Creator, there's Hearthstone, there's Hero, there's Mana, there's Trigger, there's Bunny, there's Hero Marine, there's Ryung, there's a Laser, there's Lambo, there's Scarlet, there's Shin. So that's 12 players and only 8 slots. Maybe some argument can be made about Ryung and maybe some other maybe Mana a little bit. Although Mana is still a pro player, he's still making results occasionally. So anyone,
He's also the coach or the recruiter.
the
partner
manager,
for
yeah,
TL, right? So, yeah,
the manager. They actually changed
Manager.
there's a new TL webpage, and they changed it so on the listing it's M lowercase a capital N ager.
Nice.
That's
pretty
cute.
Cool.
Yeah. So again, the point being, if there are 8 slots, there are 12 or 13 players that we would realistically expect to get it out. So even without any
Flanagan,
crazy
do you count
dark
DNS
horse.
as a pro?
Sorry,
Do you count DNS as a pro?
I didn't
Let's
even
just,
include DNS in my list. No.
Let's just have some hot takes so that DNS knows that you don't include him as a pro.
I hate DNS.
So, Creator, is he a pro? Yes. DNS, is he a pro? Not for BMWolf. Is Geralt a pro BMWolf?
I mean, sorry, when I'm saying pro, I mean, you're trying to back me in a corner. Pro players hate me. I'm talking about players that realistically I would expect to get in.
Players, apparently.
Oh,
yeah, the semi-pros hate you.
Yeah, there we go. Everyone hates me. This is just the let's make. So I got shat upon earlier in the broadcast. Now we're just making sure the pro players hate me too.
Well, if you're going to call them
Semi-pro players.
semi-pro, I mean,
Fair.
they should have a reason. But see, the fact that it's 8 slots actually does take away a lot of people. I mean, if I just went
Yeah.
off the top of my head
Yeah.
really quickly to guess who would actually get out, maybe like Creator,
Creator for sure.
Hearthstone,
Hero.
let's say like Hero,
For sure.
Skillis,
Skillis.
Trigger, Bunny,
Trigger
Bunny.
possible.
Here Marine, Ryung would be a
Marine.
serious contender, but I'm already at 7.
That's
Laser.
Yeah.
I think that's 8 actually.
And then
Yeah.
it's like
What-
Scarlet,
Creator,
Lambo, a
Hearthstone,
Laser.
Hero.
DRG, Scarlet.
Yeah, exactly. So there's
You
definitely
don't
going to be
get to
some.
Zurich before.
Yeah, I have 10. Nightmare. I have 11. Yeah,
I got to 12. Yeah.
But my point was that like if you just go from like people who absolutely could, there's already so many. There's already so
Yeah.
many. So there's definitely going to be some big fallouts, some fan favorites even falling out, right? That you guys are going to miss if you don't watch like the first day literally, because what this leads up to is to the knockout bracket round 1, which like a lot of people are so confused about this, and I guess like audibly I can understand why, but the visuals doesn't seem so bad. So they all go down to here, and then they'd face each other. And then you have the winner stage that's also happening with all the people that you saw on the list already that didn't have to sign up, that are also going to be happening. And then they drop down to the knockout bracket as well. So like what I'm trying to say is, very realistically, if you're not paying attention to like all the streams, like a Hearthstone, obviously the biggest fan favorite here, or Scarlet, I guess, like both pretty much on the level. They could be knocked out in this bracket, or they could very reasonably be knocked out in the knockout bracket round 1, which also does not get cast. Like we don't get around to casting these guys until knockout round
Wait, real?
like second to last.
Oh,
yeah,
really? We're
it's
not gonna
really
cast
late.
Reaper.
I
Unless you
posted
make
the
it.
schedule in
No.
the Discord.
Oh, that's sad.
It's just the way it goes. There's too much
Where'd
to,
she
too much to
go?
do.
It is.
Yeah. So
Getting close to a hype train.
yeah. Although it's funny, you talk about Dark Horse. I will say that this is not a Dark Horse open bracket run because he should get through. But I think Hearthstone surprises people. He's been we meme about the year of Hearthstone for a while, obviously, but Hearthstone's playing better in the last month or two than I've seen him play in a long time. Does he make
Hard
Final Day?
agree.
Probably not, because that means he's knocking out one of Dark, Clem, Serral, Raynor, Hero. But does he make a deep run? I think absolutely. He should have beaten Clem. He should have beaten Raynor in Home Story Cup and
So what's deep here? 16? Top 16?
top 8.
Oh, okay. I
Top
thought you
8 is
said absolutely
really
not.
high.
Jesus Christ.
Top 8.
I feel like a lot of this talk show right now is severely overestimating very recent results.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say it. This almost never happens, and the only thing you have to do is think is history. Like all you have to do is think of all the times that there's been the one or two guys that are hyping someone up for recent results that have never had great results in the past when it comes to these types of tournaments, and know
Hearthstone
just
has
how
one of them.
unlikely it is to happen. Like Hearthstone can be playing out of
It's
his
unlikely.
mind, but at the end of the day, he hasn't had he hasn't had that strong of a result, I should say. Like I don't want to discourage his new best performance in 2 years potentially, but to be that strong of a result, let's just calm down a little bit.
Yeah,
Also-
Hearthstone lost to Maru, lost to Kelasor 1-3 recently, and lost to Clem, beat DNS expected, lost to Serral, Laser, lost to Skillus. So he's losing to everyone that he would usually lose to, it feels like, and beating people that he would normally beat. So yeah, when he has one strong series in the last little bit, then maybe, yeah, I completely agree. It's maybe not, something to base anything off of. But Firefly though, he's been on a hot streak. I feel like that's completely different,
Fine,
because
fine.
he is clearly
Yes.
shown consistency.
This is just Katz is safe here making this prediction because Firefly's not attending.
Yeah, I know.
He feels like I can do
I'm
this.
just saying- I'm
Bayo's
just
gonna
saying
look
it's
like
different.
an
I'm just saying
idiot,
it's different.
but
I'm just saying it's different. I'm hyped for Reaper. Yeah, I'm hyped for Reaper. I mean, yeah, my prediction is Reaper will make some wave. Take a game from someone way better.
is there anything you're basing this on, Katz, or just that Reaper has some shenanigans?
It's
He
not
always has
shenanigans. He's a very
Okay.
smart player. I think he's on the rise. I've been playing some micro tournament equivalent, the store auction with him, and his decision making is just insanely good. As far as just quickly figuring out what the best approach is to the matchup that he has with the units that he has is very impressive, and that shows in his play because and the other thing that I'm basing off of is it's not an NA tournament where everyone knows that he's
Yes.
Reaper.
Mhm.
So I want to see him against Europeans and Koreans because he's going to catch people off guard as well, I feel like. So I think that's where his shot lies.
I'd be pretty excited for that. We really don't get the same feeling that I think we used to back when the open bracket was bigger, first of all, but then way back in the day, like the MLGs, where it just felt like it was the talk of the town, right? Because I guess there's a lot more talk amongst the community, perhaps, because I don't know how much time the casters had back in the day, if I can think of a broadcast schedule, to talk about things that are happening down in the player pit, but it felt like it was a lot. Whereas we are very much so limited on not just the time, but also the tools to talk about a lot of these runs or a lot of these really cool moments where someone gets a map off of a Korean player. It was the biggest talk, even if they end up getting smashed the next 2 games. And now it doesn't really feel like it happens. And it really is quite unfortunate, actually, just to talk about the setup, that we haven't had laptops to talk about games that are underway in quite a few tournaments. The innovation of the broadcast was a big discussion prior to COVID, and then we were all just so thankful that we got back off to offline that I think we kind of forgot about it. But I remember at length talking, certainly with Fear Dragon behind the scenes, but in a couple of talk shows bringing it up about how the broadcast setup is just it's quite tired. It's kind of gotten worse in some ways when we don't have the laptops or we have the analyst segment at Katowice, but then it's used like once instead of 6 times to draw dicks. Like, you know, it was still fun, but now it's just it's the same thing over and over again. It's a little vanilla, perhaps, and I would like some way to imbue the spirits of the player pit and the community, if it was possible.
It was kind of nice that we had Cats at Atlanta last year.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay, sorry, Cats. You go ahead then.
No. That's what it was, right? Like I enjoyed that tournament in particular, and yeah, it was kind of a fortunate event because they didn't need to pay for like travel for me because I was local, right? So I told them like, hey, let's do something, and then we did something, and it was kind of like an in between as well because the casters couldn't be on site. So it was kind of like a small compromise from ESL, right? Like I'm not super expensive to just be running around. So that was cool. I also would like to see more of that kind of thing because that did breach that gap that ZombieGrub was talking about a little bit.
Although it doesn't breach the issue of, hey, here's a, Reaper just did a crazy cannon rush against Hero and took a game off of him. Let's swing to that while things are happening because realistically, there are only going to be 3 streams anyway. So even if you were pulling from the like a B stream VOD or a C stream VOD or something, is anyone going to be covering Reaper Hero when there's when a laser Lambo series going on or something?
Cool.
Like it's not going to happen.
On the floor that's just walking around the floor looking for crazy shit, and then they're like, "Hey, put me in." Middle of the game, 10-second update.
Oh,
just want to let you know.
That'd be a great little picture-in-picture. Like here's the game happening. Like we're gonna make the game small because it's the early game, and take a look at this crazy thing.
We've
actions lax.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've actually suggested field reporters before, which is a very common thing in other esports.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the excuse is always, well, not the excuse because it sounds negative, but the reason is always money. Not only do they have to hire someone to be the sideline reporter, but then they have to get someone on the camera.
Most other esports like team games, they like occupy like they do like not many games at a time, right? So it's very unlikely. But yeah, like the esports like they do pre-game stuff or they do audience stuff. For StarCraft, it would be more like you're walking around the floor when there's a bunch of different matches that are going on. Yeah. So I feel like the utility is increased because you'd rather hear about Reaper proxy hatching Hero than a random audience member and what they feel like the tournament is going like or something.
Yeah, and the good thing about that as well is like you wouldn't have to have a capture card hooked into every single. You just have the over the shoulder, like the old FPV VODs.
Yeah, I'm not completely sure what Katz's point was, but that's what I was talking about. Like literally, if
you were saying that in other esports, like this is pretty common, but I can't think of many where it's like
that have sideline reporters.
No, like exactly the purpose that we're describing, which is sideline reporters. Yeah, while there's an ongoing tournament, like most other esports don't have the multitude
Dota 2
of
has
matches.
it quite.
Yeah, I mean they'll have for TI they'll have 5 series going on.
Yeah.
During plans.
Yeah, I guess for TI they have the rooms, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have like rooms where you can like cut to the rooms and stuff like that. But yeah, TI is kind of the exception, I would argue.
Well, my point wasn't that they had I guess that they had the exact same thing. But my point was that they hire a sideline reporter.
Yeah.
They hire an interviewer as well, which StarCraft sometimes doesn't do. And it's money, and then having the person follow them around and whatnot seems to be more difficult. But I think it would be awesome to include, because I also, back again in the day before we just were so thankful to get back online, I really wanted a bit more return to the roots. I talked to DJ Wheat in my podcast and stuff, and we all, we agreed that like it's become more suit and tie, and then I was like, well, the CSGO thing that they were doing where they were like in a mock bar and they're drinking beers is like their desk segment. Like StarCraft was that, like literally thanks to Tastes and Artosis, we have so much casual conversation and stupidity in a good way to work off of as like the basis of the way that we present our esport. And then just over time, we got more of like the suit and tie, make sure that you follow the run of show, make sure that we condense everything in, and then, be really tight and snappy as opposed to people sitting on beanbag chairs shooting the shit like they did on the StarCraft remastered stuff back in the day. And it just is, I guess I'm getting back to that point where I'm kind of sad because once again, I think we could be pushing Atlanta particularly so much more. because it is that fun environment. Like if we did that, if we returned to that format where it was like go back in the player pit all the time, you know, show all the players who just love playing, be really casual and just try and feed the environment. And it was at DreamHack Valencia 2 years ago. Oh, it probably would have been so cringy and painful because the crowd would always leave in the middle and like it wasn't that big of a crowd even when they were there. But Atlanta it seems like exactly what people want. They want that feeling back from being young and at a convention and just being everything there. And I think we get it very few times to actually show it. It like the hype around it came from the community posting on Reddit and posting on their own Twitters. That's the only reason that we knew just how crazy it was going, because it certainly wasn't going to be shown like in the same manner by the production.
You know what's something we'll never get again, and it's really sad? We'll never have a player have their dick released during one of their best open bracket runs. That'll never happen again.
The hell are you talking about?
Do you not remember this?
Their dick released?
What was that? Was that an
The dick
MC
pic.
line?
Oh, their dick pic was spread around.
Yes.
Why would you put it that way? That their dick was released?
I get made fun of for using the word upon, and Steadfast is here like, yes, they.
I thought you were trying to do some weird like sidestepping of the word ejaculation. You know, like I was like, it's okay, we're not TikTok, we're not gonna block it. I was like, what? Okay, all right, I get you though. I now know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's funny you talk about more casual stuff. I wasn't able to pull it off because there's a lot of logistics and the schedules are always.
You weren't
weird.
able to pull it off?
Yes, I was not able to pull off the release of the picture. No, I tried to see if we could do some sort of like DreamHack after hours thing where it was like I talked to a couple people. It would have been like me and Pig and Steadfast or something. It's renting space at a bar, like exactly what happens after TI, where they have TI after dark. I mean that seems very reasonable. Where whatever the casters are that are not on the final series, the final 2 series of the day, head on over to. I can't remember what the bars were around, but and you set up a camera up and you get players that are old enough to drink in, and you do something for an hour. Even that would be really awesome and kind of doable. But I couldn't pull it off, but ESL could.
Yeah, that like obviously there's things that we could be doing on our side, but then to actually get the organization and it being worth our time, that's a different thing. So it would be really cool, but again, that's not something that apparently is really going to ever be looked at, because we were talking about this back when it was WCS. We were talking about this even a little bit, during COVID in the constraints of an online broadcast, and I want to talk about it again coming into post-COVID, which is just, is this the best format of broadcast for StarCraft possible? Or is this just because we've done it so long and this is what like the standard esport thing is? But people got other stuff to do, I guess, so we're going to move on. That set the chat alight. We do have the winner's stage to talk about, which, we do actually have matches to talk about here. So Kelezer with his first victory for the Americas. Congratulations, or his victory, but congratulations for getting here because of the regionals. Face Maru. Suck it! Kira Straya, Classic Clem, Gumio Showtime. All those I think are fun. I like TVP. But Kelezer facing Mario to begin with, kind of sad for him.
Yeah, although Mario's not quite as good as he has been in the past. Although apparently that was because he was sick, and maybe he's not sick anymore. So, and it is Kelezer. So I don't know. It is funny though.
Kelezer peaking though. He qualified through Europe. Special recently in TVT. That's the matchup that usually gets him.
True.
Maybe it's sad for Maru.
But his Korean TVT, or his facing TVT, you know what I mean? I'll quickly check it.
I mean, I think we're going to see some stuff with, like, you can do some weird aggressive stuff with the new Cyclone that, because Maru's strength has always been the late game in TVT, right? I think most people would agree with that.
Just being a god. But
yeah, his strength is survival, I would say.
Yeah.
But the reason that you survive is to get up to that mass Raven composition, right? Like, that was the whole thing.
He's as proficient as anyone in the late game, that's for sure, or was.
Yeah. I mean, that's not his only strength, obviously, but that's what I think of when I think in terms of like Maru being a miracle worker. You're like, wow, like he survived impossibly for 25 minutes and won a game that he lost in minute 4, and then he does it 2 more times in the same series. But with Cyclones as they are, I'm not willing to say that Maru is vulnerable, but maybe he's a little more vulnerable than we think.
I've just been looking up the.
Yeah, the illegal.
I'm just shading Kelazar right now. I'm just gonna bring up all of his past trauma and shit.
Like, look at it. It's not that bad. I mean, losing
what do you mean?
Is Maru better than Cure? I see a couple.
It hasn't been
a couple of wins against Cure here and there.
It hasn't been contested, but did you look at the percentage? But let's say that it's only it's across the board. Let's put in. Well, he actually hasn't played Korean Terrans all that often. He mostly plays against Cure. Let's go for 2 years, shall we?
That's 1 year. That's just 1 year against Korean Terrans.
Yeah, and this is 2 years.
Finalist of last.
He's 3-13 in matches.
So what you're saying is he's trending upwards.
He's trending upwards.
His TVT is actually still his worst. Like, I don't mean to throw Kelazar.
What was since the patch? Well, let's look at just since the patch. Is there an option?
He doesn't face Korean Terrans often enough for that to actually have a stat, I think.
Then we don't know.
So when was that? Like October, I guess.
So what you're saying is he's 1-0 versus Korean Terran since the patch?
This wasn't even the patch.
Yeah, that was like yesterday.
Oh no, you're right. I was actually so confused.
Yeah,
we are in December.
That was the qualifier.
All right, literally yesterday he did beat Bunny offline.
100% win rate against Korean Terran.
Yeah, Bunny playing in Europe at 4 a.m. That's
also when was the last
100%.
Bunny hasn't done anything this year,
100%.
What do you mean? He just lost to Kelazar.
True. And I'm sorry.
Oh, it's funny. No, actually, I'm gonna bring up something that maybe like people are gonna disagree with me or I don't know. But the thing is, like, so at Gamers 8, all right, stay with me here. I know I just made fun of Kelazar, but I'm actually defending his chances now. At Gamers 8, Tasteless made a interesting call on the desk, in which it was a Maru TVT, and he said, well, Maru does tend to, if he does lose, it tends to be in TVT. And there are some guffaws, there are some scoffs, there are some question marks, and I know why, because Maru's TVT win record is still like one of the best ever. But I actually want to defend Tasteless a little bit here. His prominent matches, the ones that we talk about where he loses on the finals of a Katowice or the semifinals of a GSL, or almost, I should say, and then he just, Cure is not destined to beat Maru apparently. It isn't TVT. Like, I think besides anything else, like, Tasteless was kind of right in that a lot of the times it's TVT that seems to be the most prominent matchup that gets talked about for Maru's losses, I guess is the way to put it, because he is so good at it. So it's it was a sentence that had to be let's say improved upon and explained, but it kind of did make sense. And so I'm not just talking about those, but also Gumiho defeating Maru at Yangcheping. Like, his TVT win record overall is still freaking amazing, but he is losing it. And it sometimes looked like the matchup where he actually hasn't practiced the most or something, so that he does lose these surprise games. Because his games versus Gumiho were actually quite, like, question marky. They were like, what is Maru trying to do? I don't get what he's like. Why has he changed his style? Well, and then the patch is out, and the Cyclones have changed things, and there's definitely a new Cyclone build out there that's fucking stupid, but it's happening. So,
although you look at, it's funny, it's hard to judge Maru right now. He's played a grand total of 29 games in the last month. He's not. I mean, granted, he's never been active online, but you want to talk about what's killing him right now? He's won 4 of 12 maps against Zergs. So there is that. He was 0-3'd by DRG recently.
That was when he was supposedly sick, though, right?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But also the Gumiho thing, that was after the Raven was nerfed. I'm telling you, like, Maru has always been his superpower. What makes him more than just a regular, very, very good elite level player has always been to win unwinnable games. And even since the Raven nerf, he has done that. Like, he did that versus Cure was that a GSL finals where he like turned an impossible game? I don't remember when it was, but it was after the Raven nerf. But like, he still hasn't been able to do it as frequently as he can. He can no longer just be like, okay, I am going to survive and I am going to then decide / control you in the late game. I'm going to make better calls, reads, whatever. Like, I don't know. I think that there is the miracle of Maru is going to be less frequent, I think. I think we're going to see Maru pulling off less miracles.
I think the other thing we have to consider, though, also is like when you consider Maru and Maru's performance, it's almost like you can't talk about his foreign tournaments because he's not Maru in foreign tournaments. Like, yes, he made Katowice finals this year, but when he's in Korea, when he's playing maybe an online tournament, but generally, like when he's playing from Korea, he's going to win the tournament. When he's foreign, when he's playing not in Korea, he's not going to win the tournament. And that
he's just going to get a pathetic top 2.
Yeah,
it's gotten better. You know, it has, like, in fairness to him, it has gotten better. But I mean, foreign Maru is still very much a thing. When I don't ever look at Maru for a foreign tournament and say he's a threat to win because I know he's not.
So the hot take here is that GSL has been weak for a while, including the year that he won all 3. And so in the same way that people are like, well, Cyril's never the GOAT because he's never won GSL, Maru will never be the GOAT. He'll never win the international championship.
Wait, are we talking the first time or the second time he won four GSLs in a row?
He only won 4.
WESG, of course, happened.
He only won 4 in a row once.
Oh, that's right. And then it was 3 in a row. My bad.
Yeah. Anyway,
I would say, the first when he won 4 in a row, I would say the GSL was still pretty strong.
Yeah. It hasn't been what it used to be for a while.
Well,
that was kind of the Mimi joke anyway. I would say that Maru, but besides him being sick, I think it's actually very, to me, Maru looks like, someone wrote it in chat and I have to agree. He looks like someone who's tired. He looks like, I mean, first of all, he's not like 22, but he actually is. But then second of all, that he is like done being the best in the world and then not winning the world championship. And he's like not going to do it at all at this point. I actually think that's the case.
So what you're saying is he's getting too old for this shit.
He's getting too old for this shit. Exactly. At a mere 24.
He's entered the twilight, the decline, you know?
Actually,
it's only downhill from here.
Yeah, he's 26, man. That is fucking old. Get out of here. Go off to military. God, you geezer. Jesus.
This is where we should have a montage of Maru's first games when he was like
12, yeah. Yeah.
And then it flashes back to him and he still looks like he's 14 years old.
yeah. Still looks like he's so young. But no, I just like Maru has obviously like an intense, burning desire to win, as seen by his comments after his loss at the Global Championship. Or I should say he definitely did at that point. We know that. But I actually wonder how much that's gonna affect him in this upcoming global finals that now has been moved, but still. It's gonna be interesting.
He's still the highest rated Korean on a League for whatever that's worth.
He's what?
The highest rated Korean on the League.
Oh yeah, I mean I don't doubt it. Like as much because one thing that's also always interesting about a League is how many games are played, right? So people.
So he's the highest rated Korean. So what does that put him in? What place?
Fourth. Is this the lowest Maru's been on a League in like the last 3 years?
I was just gonna say because it matters so much about who they're playing and how often they're playing, and Max Pax is quickly dismissed from this position in top 2 because of the games that he plays and the games that he doesn't play.
Well, you get a lot less MMR for smashing noobs, right? Like almost no change.
But he doesn't face anyone offline, so who the fuck cares?
The lack of offline results is definitely a thing in terms of Max Packs. But I will say that even online, Maru, like, before Max Pax took that very first game, there was a magical game that it was Moondance. There was a magical game that Max Pax won against Maru. And since then, Max Pax has not dropped a series versus Maru. That shit was fucking mint. And since then, Max Pax has unlocked something against Maru, and it's really cool. And I know, once again, it's online, but like, I'm just saying, it's pretty cool.
Well,
Something,
before
ping, Maru's up too late.
The online caveat is also weird, right? Like, are we saying players play worse or better online? Like, what's the
Different.
consensus here?
it's just different.
Yeah, but what's better or worse? Like, difference better or worse?
It
right?
matters to
Like,
people more when it's offline because it's more fun offline.
That and
okay, well, that's a different argument than if we're trying to determine who the best player is on a given day, right? Like, yeah, because I don't think, I don't.
I think we
like,
would
Max
argue
Pax
that the
is the best player in the world when he's sitting at home. That's you could say that's a caveat, but most of us play most games sitting at home. So
I think
like,
we
in
would
his
argue though,
comfort zone, you
Cats,
could argue he's
that like
playing
when you
better.
talk about the best player in the world, you're talking about the best player in the world when it matters. And it matters a lot more when you're playing at IEM Katowice than if you're playing ESL Open Cup number 257.
Sure. I mean,
The other side of that,
that's the caveat is when it matters, or when there's a lot of money on the line or a lot of eyes on the player, then against that, then obviously if that's the caveat, then that's the caveat. But I'm saying he's a fucking beast.
yeah. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
not to get dragged into this discussion, and also to quickly bow out before the Maru fanboys descend upon us. We have more of a DreamHack. So that was just a brief stop on Kelazar versus Maru. And then now we move on to where all the Zergs are. No Zergs in Group A. Group B is Serral Cyan, which I really don't think Cyan's going to win. Sorry, buddy. Beyond Raynor, which Raynor might not be super happy about considering his own evaluation of his skill, but we'll see. Dark Spirit, I think, is going to be very interesting. And then Oliveira Solar.
All right, so how many juicy fungals does Dark hit against Spirit? Is it 1 a game? Is it 5 a game? That's that's the important stat here, ZombieGrub.
I mean, if you're looking for stats on that, then probably that it's gonna be on the high end, right? Because these are gonna be long games as well.
So should we do it per minute then? Like, how many juicy fungals does he get per minute?
Then it's more accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like, if you turn into an acronym, FPM, sounds like a pretty solid stat, You can throw that out there. Yeah. Dark's got a 2.5 FPM, and Serral's only got about 2. So on that quadrant, at least, Serral, Dark is really outperforming his peers in this tournament.
Personally, I have a over 20 FPM going on every day. I'm saying,
But what is your FDPM fungled per minute?
Fungled?
Fungled.
I don't know. I don't fungal people. I was just.
Do you get like extra points if you do the neuroparasite into the EMP?
Oh yeah, you do.
I feel like
You get
Serral
all the
wins
points.
on that one. Yeah.
And then you get people complaining on YouTube about how bird infestors are overpowered.
Bird infestors are definitely underutilized, except by Dark.
For sure.
And Serral.
No, Serral's been using them a lot recently.
Nah, Dark still uses them.
More, but Serral's going to use them a lot
The
more.
appropriate amount.
Serral's going to use them a shit ton at this tournament.
Yeah, it's funny. I have this discussion in my head a lot about, like, who's the better infestor player between Serral and Dark, but they're just so different, right? Dark is Serral's like the best straight up infestor player. Like, he's going to play an infestor
Dark
how you
has more
expect
shots
infestor
on
to
goal.
do.
Yeah.
Dark
has more shots on goal is a great way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he might score more with infestors than Serral does.
Oh, that's a spicy take. A little bit dicey, a little bit spicy. Why are Zerg spells the only ones that don't deal friendly fire? Oh, Blinding Cloud doesn't deal friendly fire, but it does affect friendly units.
Trying to think of, well, I guess, EMP. I mean, Snipe technically does friendly fire, but you're never going to snipe your own unit.
No, you can't.
You
You can't snipe your own unit.
Can't. I was going to say, because that absolutely would have happened accidentally.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Talking about Zerg only having the only spell that doesn't friendly, or, doesn't have friendly fire.
No, it's that they're the only race that doesn't have any ones that deal friendly fire.
I think the other way of looking at it is Zerg has the only race where their splash damage and spells aren't strong enough for the friendly fire to not matter. I'll take my gold medal in Olympic gymnastics now, or mental gymnastics.
That's a bronze medal. Like,
Oh my
I don't
God.
think people are buying that one. That performance is not good enough that fast.
Biles don't count. They're not a spell. I mean, they're a spell, but
Files
they're not.
are absolutely a spell.
They're not energy based though. They're not a spellcaster. We don't call them spellcasters. We call them abilities.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Ability versus spell is a very important distinction.
Anyways, Viper Consume, which is why they nerfed it or they buffed it. God, I'm on to you, Cabal.
The only thing now, I had someone ask me in chat the other day a really important question. So in StarCraft, we have the Zerg Cabal, right?
We have.
When Stormgate starts to pick up, and I mean we're gonna have Stormgate at DreamHack Atlanta. Is it the Infernal? You can't call it the Infernal Cabal, right? That doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Is it the Infernal Conclave? Is it the Infernal Congress?
I'm going to tell you
No,
right
what's the-
no one's going to care enough to come up with one. Boom!
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Fatality. ZG wins.
I'm just kidding.
He's
But
walking
seriously.
off.
I don't think there's not going to be enough. There's not going to be enough overpoweredness to really make a meme. So
Hey, ZombieGrub. You underestimate the netizens of the internet. I don't care if it doesn't matter what it is. It's gonna be people are gonna find something to be overpowered consistently enough, and they're gonna
Literally
get mad about it.
Everything in the game will be overpowered.
yo,
They're going to announce the third race, and they're going to be like, God, I can't believe Protoss equivalent is so broken. And it'll be like, we haven't seen any units yet. And they're going to be like, yeah, but I just know.
no. Apparently, the thing that people are complaining about now is cheeses. The fucking. If only the game didn't have cheese and wasn't so mechanically demanding. If it was chess, I would win all the fucking games. People are so fucking butthurt about cheeses. They think that there is an RTS out there that won't have a cheese, and they are stupid.
I've seen people complaining about how the fact that you can't see the entire map at once. And I'm just like,
Oh
you
my
know why
god.
OpenAI was so strong.
I did see that. Oh my god, the amount of dumb suggestions from people when it comes to new RTS, it just makes me. This is why I don't go to the StormGate Reddit. But anyway,
It's fun sometimes. You're like, oh wow, what's the idiocy of the day? It's great.
yeah. Anyway, I don't think there'll be enough time to come up with the cabals for Inferno Vanguard, but we'll see. Any other comments on the matchups here?
I think
Obviously I gotta
predictions
go
will go.
pretty soon, but should we do a go around who wins each bracket?
Sure.
who makes playoffs.
Yeah, like who wins each
To
4-player
playoffs.
bracket.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Okay, but
really
we
care
gotta
about
say
the
it all
order.
at the same time. We gotta say it at the same time,
Oh god.
like on a count.
Okay, I'll give you guys 10 seconds to decide, and then we're gonna rapid fire. All right, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, go. I
Clem.
think that Clem,
Clem,
and
Cure,
then
Cyril,
Cyril,
and
and
then
then
Maru.
Dark.
Dark.
Cyril. Dark.
Wow,
No,
great content.
no.
Firefly.
Solar.
That was beautiful, guys.
That was
Well done.
incomprehensible. Nice.
I think we kind of had the same answers, though. There's maybe the final bracket was different.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
I heard
what I
some
said.
Marus, I think.
I forgot.
Yeah, I think anything can happen, I guess, but this is the have multiple chances to live side of the thing. They have the lower bracket here and they have the knockout bracket. So even if someone loses, like if Gumiho doesn't do well, then he has the lower bracket and then he has the knockout bracket as well. So just keep that in mind, guys, as we have all of these players arriving in the good old US of A in just a few days.
You know
Which
what's
is-
kind of crazy? It is
Yeah.
actually very possible for a player who's in one of the top 16 spots with like a relatively easy bracket for them. We could actually see someone clean sweep this tournament. Like it's very unlikely. I really, really don't expect that it's going to happen. But if you're in the winner stage, you only need to win 2 best of 3s to make it to the round of 8. And then that's just 3 series.
So
yeah,
when you
Serral
say
has a
clean
pretty good
sweep,
chance there.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I was specifically thinking Serral or Maru, but I really think it would be Serral who would have the best chance of doing so.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
I mean, Serral's won every ESL event this year. In this season, I mean, if we Katowice this year, but it was last season. He's won every single ESL event this year. So
if he all kills ESL Masters Atlanta, like, do we give him the GOAT title then? Like, is that enough?
He has. I mean, Serral, you said Serral or Maru. Serral beat Maru the last 8 times. Boom. I guess 7 times. He tied once. Twice.
Yeah, he tied
Or 6
recently,
times
yeah.
still.
Goat debate.
Stefan, just out of curiosity, when you say clean sweep, are you saying not drop a single map or not drop a single series?
Oh, I'm saying not drop a single map. I'm
Okay.
saying he
Yeah,
literally
not
all
dropping a
kills the
single
tournament.
series is kind of just a tournament.
There's no chance Maru beats
Yeah.
Serral without dropping a map. No chance.
I agree. I think Serral would definitely at least take a map versus Maru.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know that Serral does it either because he's likely going to have to run into Raynor upper bracket. Even if he's kind of had Raynor's number this year, Raynor takes a map, I would think.
I actually don't know that I agree with
More
that.
often
I
than
think
Did it in regionals.
Not necessarily, I think.
yeah, I
True.
actually feel like that would be. I feel like as long as Serral doesn't run into Clem, there's actually a really good chance that Serral just doesn't drop a map. Like it's, the more I think about it, the more I put it at like a reasonable percentage, you know, like 10%.
Sure, that's reasonable.
I think if he faces Solar in his EVZ.
Oh, true. That's the
No.
kryptonite.
No, Shin.
No, fuck off.
Solar.
He did it
Ragnarok's not even
knocked
gonna get
him
to
out
the
of a
open
tournament.
bracket, buddy. Like,
I actually don't think he will. I don't think he
yeah.
Yeah.
makes
I
it
haven't
through the
seen much
open
of it.
stage.
Solar
seen much
actually
from this
has
year,
the
yeah.
highest win probability against Serral, I think, out of anyone, right? Like 37%. Beast
Probably.
in a best of 3. That's wild.
37%.
That's wild.
Imagine being like, all right, we have the hero who can slay this immortal beast. He's our best chance. He's the hero. We've put all of our resources into him. He gets a 1 in 3 chance of winning. Like humanity's final hope.
Yeah.
He is, right? Like, I don't think anyone else has a better chance.
Yeah, and his last, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this last 10 series? In the last 10 series, Serral has lost 2 maps. Granted, not all against really top tier players, but I wish there was a way to take a look at see like which player. I'm sure I could do this with a API poll or something, but like to query a Ligulac or a Liquipedia or something, say which player has the highest win. No, yeah, probably Ligulac. Which player has the highest win probability in a single game, or like a single best of 5 against Serral. You could do it
So,
manually, but it'd be nice if that was a something you could pull.
I mean, I just checked the top 4, right? And yeah, Solar outperforms all of them, even though he's 8th. So Solar Maxbox has 35%.
I was gonna say Maxfax would probably be my second pick.
Yeah, Clem has 29%. Those are the best Terran and Protoss.
Unironically, maybe Raynor's Protoss. Like,
Honestly, yeah.
like actually, I put that as top 5. Like, if you give me a choice of any player to put up against Serral to beat him, I probably put Raynor's Protoss in that top 5, like easily.
Yeah, he's got a
29% too.
He's got a 50% win rate. Raynor's Protoss 50% win rate against Serral.
Yeah.
All of these drop as well, right? Like when we go to like semis and finals, all of these percentages drop because it's best of 5s and best of 7. So it's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's just bonkers how good he is. Like, it's actually just, it defies logic. Like, truly.
He's just the best.
He really is just built different.
Well,
Truly.
that is a nice segue into maybe a little bit of the other news outside of DreamHack Atlanta, because we've kind of covered the most important things about it. Which, of course, that Serral's going to start military service. If you have not seen this, guys, then, get the sirens going or something. We're going to lose our only hope against the aliens. And it's...
Only Cirque hope. But this is going to be fun when he leaves.
Yeah.
'Cause now there's not going to be any Cirques in the top 4 of a Ligulac. Like, Cirque's going to stop losing tournaments. Just got to injure Raynor,
Yeah.
Break his ankles or something.
Yeah.
It's going to change things. He is allowed to play, just to actually talk about this. So there's military service in Finland, for those that didn't know. It's not as strict, I guess is the right word. But especially if you go to its the division that Cyril's going to. He's been accepted to a special unit that's made for professional and high-level athletes, so they can keep up the chance of continuing their careers. So that's where he's going to. So he actually will probably be attending events, when he's allowed to, which, it sounds like it's something that they're willing to accommodate. But he won't have as much practice. So that's the difference that we're going to be seeing from Cyril at the start of April 2024. So he can play Katowice, no problem. But then when it comes to Dallas, he actually said, I think, that he might not be able to go because he's like literally starting, and that'd be like skipping your first week of university or something. And then maybe for the actual World Championship, he won't be as practiced. And I think we will see some effects eventually. But the thing is that we usually see kind of like a weird bump in some like confidence or something, whatever it is, when players go semi-pro or they officially retire but play for fun. Most recently, I think like Drogo had that, but there's been plenty of others that have had the same thing. I don't know if that would happen with Cyril, but I think what would happen with Cyril anyway is a positive, which is that he already does like a smaller amount of actual 1v1 practice than a lot of other pros. He's talked about this, and I think in general, if we look at like sports psychology and stuff, it's actually recommended to do what Cyril does, which it's not so much the reps, especially when it's not focused reps. That it's more about like thinking things through and using your time wisely and strategizing and analyzing and getting the replays, and he does a lot of that. So I actually don't know when he will be affected the most. But then I don't actually know him. So there's also a chance that if he can't do literally all of that all the time, that he falls off really hard. I have no idea.
So here's what we need, actually. Here's how we ensure that we have a break from just the absolute Finnish hegemony that we have coming out of Cyril. Cyril goes April 2024, right? Goes to military.
Mm-hmm.
Balance patch the next week. Shake everything up. Biggest balance patch we've had in years. Sorry, Cyril, you don't get the time to figure it out. That's how we free ourselves from the grip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cyril.
Well, yeah, I don't know what we would
Yeah,
do.
like just make it really personal. Call it the fuck Cyril patch. Like,
I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
not this last patch,
super.
but 2 patches ago was the fuck max packs and PvP patch. So,
and it didn't work. That's
It
the
didn't
best
work, it
part. It
tried.
didn't even work.
Yeah. I mean, I think April 2024, we need to get like 50 people, like 30 pros, 20 content creators, casters, etc., and cast votes on the GOAT, and then crown the GOAT right there and then.
Oh,
That
Deal.
would
Because let's be honest,
assuredly go to Cyril, I think.
Oh, 100%.
assuredly go to Cyril, but so that people
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah, I do
There's still, like,
think
doubters.
in the conversation of GOATs, there is a little bit of push to the wayside pro gamer opinions, and I guess because it's the English-speaking pros that we hear from, so it's kind of understandable that it's not considered in these debates, but it's not considered enough, even with that caveat. Like the amount of people who talk about this and then completely don't even realize that almost all of the pros, including many of the Koreans, if not almost all of them, think that
No,
Cyril
most
is the
for sure,
best as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like every single Korean. I'm just gonna say it. I think every single Korean thinks that Cyril is the best player in the world and probably
That's
the best
despite
player
a
of all
bias,
time.
and a bias that's inherent to them playing each other on the
Yeah.
same region, on the same tournament, so they know who's best out of them. And then you have to carve out the bias and say the guy that we play sometimes he fucking smashes us,
Yeah, that
By the
guy
way,
scares me.
go
I
back?
gotta go,
Guy
guys. I
scares
gotta
me.
get some stuff done. But thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. Thanks for stopping by, Sidfest.
I stood fast.
I gotta
Bye.
listen to-
See you guys in like
See you.
5 days.
Yeah. I want to put one final thought about Atlanta, by the way, is that the fact that Dark is actually attending is a bit of a surprise to me. Because if you remember Katowice last year, he was convinced that he was going to have to go to military, that this was going to be the last tournament we were going to see him. I talked to him in the bar afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I'll see you in StormGate, right? I'm not going to be playing in any other tournament. So the fact that he has this zest effect, I guess, where he can leave Korea to play in another tournament is pretty great. I'm pleasantly surprised.
If it wasn't for Zest doing the exact same thing a couple of years ago, I also would be surprised. But because Zest happened, I wasn't at all surprised.
Although, wasn't there rumors that like Zest had a back issue or something that was pushing him back or something like that?
I don't think so. If you have health issues, you just go to a different department of the military. It doesn't delay your military.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it is, to be clear, like there's a reason that they say that and then it doesn't happen. They're not lying. The Korean government is being ambiguous and maybe, I don't know, like we'll talk about it later and then they're allowed to go. So but yeah, it does seem to happen quite a bit. So Trap also had the same thing, yeah. I guess it was less talked about because it's an era of domination was COVID. So but yeah. I'm not too surprised at Dark, but I'm also very happy that he's able to go. Of course. Last thing that I did want to talk about is that there are going to be the show matches. So while we have about 20 minutes here, there are going to be show matches. We have finally got all the confirmation, other than the Cat's kind of pre-announcement on the last talk show, that ZeroSpace will be having a.
Well, we won't have a show match anymore.
I was going to say what are you guys having?
We'll have a booth.
Booth. There you go.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a booth. And then StormGate is going to have a show match and a developers panel kind of thing going on. We also did learn that it will be on a different channel. This was what was questioned in the last time. So it's going to be on just the ESL channel and not the ESL_SC2. Also, the StormGate one is going to be before any StarCraft goes on. So they also announced that Tastosis will be casting it, which a lot of people were very excited about, and that's great. But that's going to be happening Sunday.
Is Tastosis casting StarCraft as well? Because they're going to be there now.
No.
For sure, no.
For sure, no.
To the best of my knowledge, if they're doing it, if they're doing StarCraft, we haven't been told about it.
No, they
Right.
won't. It's just entirely different negotiations that have to go on, wouldn't it? So
I suppose, but I imagine part of the holdup is how expensive like tickets are from, I guess Canada and Korea. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe there's more wiggle room there, especially if they're already there. They can.
their day
volunteer.
rate's also a fair penny.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm talking more on the actual obligations, because they would have to be here earlier than I think they're currently planning on.
Yeah, Tasteless was in my stream the other day, and he was saying they get in on Friday night,
Yeah.
15th.
And then they would have to be like, well, we're really only doing StormGate on Sunday. Then is that kind
I
of like
see.
as a day rate for us or not?
Mhm.
But
I see.
but I did think about this. It will be the only event that I can think of where Tastosis is there in the same hall, in the same building, when they are not casting StarCraft 2. And I cannot wait for everyone to wonder why they aren't casting the finals specifically. Because they do that even when they're not in the same fucking country. And now they're going to be in the same place, and they're just on. Oh my god.
Like it's generally not a good idea to look
Well,
at
it's
Twitch
different
chat,
channel.
but like especially I'm not going to be looking at Twitch chat for the final day because like where's
I'm excited.
Tastosis?
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, that's kind of expected, right? It's part for the course.
Is that the cast the finals?
No,
No,
that people wonder where
Oh,
their
the
favorite
people.
caster is, and
Yeah.
they're the most widespread caster that there is. There's a lot of history there. It makes
Yeah.
sense that it happens. It's just
For sure. But any more thoughts on the the introduction of the RTS? I've actually played a bit of ZeroSpace with Fear Dragon when Stormgate was down, and had some fun there. Then I
good.
tried playing a little bit of Stormgate, but it was constantly down. So
Do you
Didn't-
enjoy? How do you have any thoughts on it?
you know what? I had to have a sanity check when I was playing Fear Dragon. I could not for the life of me figure out how to get the fucking like Terrazine or whatever you guys call it, the second resource.
The flux. Yeah, the flux.
I was looking around so much, and I was like, "Where do you build the thing? Where do you build the thing?" And I realized
It's
that
on
your
the
main,
headquarters. Yeah.
but yeah, your main town hall is actually different from your expansions.
Yeah.
So then also Fear Dragon killed his
That's good
own main
feedback.
town hall to see if that would stop the game, because we weren't sure if like a base race was possible.
It is.
And well, no, it ended the game killing the main town hall. So
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, base race. Oh, I see. Yeah, I thought you meant a base race as in kill the main town hall. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was an
But
ambiguous
that's cool.
term. But yeah, I mean,
That's
like
great feedback. Thank you.
trying to rebuild everywhere
we're
else.
trying to.
Yeah, I don't know. I
definitely
thought it
trying
was
to
so
do
stupid,
that,
and then
yeah.
Fear Dragon also had trouble, and I was like, well, at least I don't feel as stupid. But I eventually found the
Yeah.
button.
It's yeah. We're gonna probably add a button that's to find or to go to the HQ, and we'll have a tutorial and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have it
It-
ready
it
for
also-
DreamHacks.
It also feels like it would be nice to be able to set something else as your main HQ, like in those weird base trades. It to me, it's a little sad that you just got to kill one structure. It's not everything. It's just okay. We're
It's
gonna
a
kill
very
the
tanky structure.
It
It's a
is.
different win condition for sure, but yeah, but we can. Yeah, I mean, we haven't decided on that. Like, there's internal debate on whether you should kill all the buildings or just the HQ.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of when base trades get wild and people are just expanding all over the place. And that just that can't happen if the HQ is the win condition. So.
Why?
Because if the HQ is the win condition, then you have to kill one building. So like if the main base,
Yeah.
If it gets to the point where the bases are getting traded and people are expanded, like taking structures everywhere, and it's this game of cat and mouse, that's not. I
happens.
mean, the win condition's different. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. It's just a different win condition. Yeah, but you can just run into the HQ like when you're behind potentially, and if there's no recall available or something, you can get it. But yeah, I mean, we're
Yeah.
no one can follow this conversation, so it's
Yeah, sorry guys. But yeah, ZeroSpace was fun. I think Fear Dragon and I agreed that the amount of abilities and the abilities themselves were more fun than
A lot.
StormGate.
Mm.
But then we
I'm
also we kind of commiserate we both agreed it's kind of sad that none of the new RTS that are coming out, like the most promising ones, I should say, are campless. They all encourage you to go out on the map and get some type of camp
I see.
going. So we just kind of were sad about
I
that,
see.
but it is what it is.
So you would prefer the ability to camp a little bit more, basically?
No, like creep camps. I
Creep
think.
camps. We don't.
Oh,
We wish that there were games that were like StarCraft 2, where there's no creep camp to go and kill and get.
Right. Yeah. I guess the flux is an incentive out on the map, and the creep camps and the control towers are incentives out on the map. I think StormGate has the same idea because I think it pushes the gameplay to be a little bit more dynamic and a little bit quicker and more interactive. So yeah, it's kind of like an approach that a lot of games take, and like in StarCraft, you can definitely just turtle, and turtle games tend to be the ones that get the most hatred over time, I feel like, but I can definitely see how maybe there's a way to make it a little bit more accessible.
Yeah, this goes back to my last rant that I had in the last episode of the episode before it. Like, I'll like whatever new RTS comes out because I actually do just play general RTS. But at the end of the day, what I've come to realize is no matter how much I'll like another game, it isn't going to be StarCraft because the
Exactly.
design goals are not the same as the game that I do. So that's kind of disappointing about it. There's a lot of discussion now that StormGate's gotten onto the Game Awards, and again, people are very upset that it was like such a short thing, and then the Game Awards itself has had all this trauma. But the amount of times that I see people saying like, well, you shouldn't be comparing it to StarCraft or Warcraft, or it's funny that it's always the reverse, depending on which one you liked more, and we should just let it be its new thing and its own thing. And they're not necessarily wrong, but it's also not wrong of people to want what they wanted, which is
No, and StormGate does say they're the spiritual successor, right, to StarCraft, Warcraft 3, Blizzard games. So I feel
Yeah,
like
but that's
there
the
is
thing
an
is that-
expectation set, and the comparison is going to happen no matter what.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
ZeroSpace has a problem where, like visually, like for a completely to the untrained eye, we our two of our 4 initial races look like Zerg and Terran a lot. So we have bugs and we have humans. So inevitably we get compared. But on the design front, that's the last thing we kind of want. We want to make a new game, a different game.
Yeah.
That's also true of Stormgate as well, right? We have humans and Zerg right now. But it's also, I guess, this issue in general. Like, there are only so many archetypes.
Yeah.
If you're gonna design a race, you're gonna have humans because you're gonna have humans. You're gonna have
humans,
like
yeah.
bugs are an archetype, advanced aliens are an archetype. Like,
Yeah.
you rapidly, if you're just pulling from like sci-fi and fantasy archetypes, you run out of overarching kind of design ideas.
Yeah.
Fairly quickly. Maybe I'm just not being creative enough. I don't know, but
Oh, we got the soul. The soul are like this like embodiment of AI, right? So it's a
Mhm.
little bit of
Yeah.
a newer concept, and we're working on that.
Yeah. Well, visually, sure, but yeah, the fact that they said that they wanted it both to be StarCraft and Warcraft obviously will draw people to compare it to it. But then also it means that it's their, we were certainly hoping that it was going to be only a spiritual successor to StarCraft, not Warcraft, basically. And I think that there's some. I said I didn't go to the Stormgate Reddit, and I lied. I do. There's actually some good feedback being given at this point,
Mhm.
like actually worthwhile feedback that I might disagree with, but it's presented well and it's gotten examples and stuff. There's actually, I think, a lot of smart discussion. You just have to find it in the more mass dumbass ideas that also get posted.
What happened to the thread that was on our StarCraft for Tate Sosa's casting?
I saw that was removed. I'm guessing the mods
it was
agreed.
removed, right?
Yeah, that it wasn't pertinent to StarCraft.
That's interesting because it was at the top of our StarCraft. So I feel like at that point, if you're a mod, you just gotta chill, you know. But,
I don't know. I was ambivalent towards it. I can see their point, and I can see it being put up. I didn't really mind either way. But one thing that I was really interested in is someone made a Reddit thread and saying, they gave their feedback on like the visual clarity, which is a big issue. And then someone responded, and they made a good point. They were like, if you're going to have low lethality, but an even higher supply cap than StarCraft, what's going to happen is going to be huge blobs of not much happening for an extended period of time. And I thought that was actually a really condensed way of saying what I've been kind of feeling, which is watching some of these fights happening in Stormgate and not really being like all that energized by them. And there's no hero unit that is in the mix like a Warcraft in which that can become the focus of the narrative, whether or not that survives. So, yeah, there's some good discussion.
That is part
That's
of the
a
beauty
really
of
good
StarCraft
point,
is
yeah.
the suddenness, right? Like you land a disruptor shot, you yell. At least I yell for sure. Like
Yeah.
it's there's definitely a lot more excitement out of the suddenness and the unpredictableness of like the very thing that StarCraft gets shit for, which is like the fights are too sudden. I look away and my army died. Like that's fun to watch, right? So yeah, there's definitely gonna have to be I think for any RTS that tries to find an in between, there's definitely gonna have to be some thought towards that and how do you still make the game exciting and yeah.
Yeah.
And the wild thing about it as well that I've been watching some of the Stormgate streams that have been happening. So I feel comfortable talking about this is that it feels like you see these fights because the time to kill is so much lower. It's not the sudden damage, but it's like suddenly a side loses, right? Because the damage is applied pretty uniformly, and in these longer fights, the damage can be applied even more uniformly. So it feels like you just suddenly have that a side's dead because all of a sudden, the HP bars go down pretty uniformly.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't think, I hope, I think this is something that they're talking about. Obviously, there's a lot of feedback about it. It should get fixed and changed and improved upon.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, kind of, because I think you're right. People have been complaining for years now about how StarCraft's time to kill is too low. And it's just interesting seeing what happens when a team goes and says, okay, we're going to solve this. We're going to really deal with this, and running into the outcomes that we didn't necessarily expect coming out of that.
Yeah, it's
there's ways around it though, right? Like
yeah.
Well, yeah, the ideal initially was set up as Brood War, but then the Warcraft kind of came in as well with their ideas, and I think what we had was more of a Warcraft fix than a Brood War fix. But I definitely know the developers of Stormgate are very mindful of the reasons as to why both games worked. But regardless, I will say that the marketing in the last month has been a lot better. I think there's been some more fun videos. The Game Awards is a little unfortunate because I don't think that minute-long thing with Simulu was actually super well received. But then I watched the actual 5-minute video and I thought it was great. I wish they could have played that for the Game Awards, but they're only allowed a certain amount of time. So
the Infernals video they released a couple weeks ago was I think their best video yet.
Yeah,
the IGN one.
Yeah, the IGN one. Yeah, that was by far my favorite at least. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like say Asmongold or Esfand playing like people. Yeah. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs, but for whatever reason they're giving it a shot and they're playing they're streaming it on a schedule, and then there's Simulu doing the intros on the Game Awards and stuff like that. Like that kind of thing, I think for hardcore fans Like they don't care that much because they care about the actual like game and content, but what it is doing is basically sending out the word to people that they wouldn't have otherwise reached, right? So for example, like what I was looking at or what I was paying attention to when the Simulu thing happened was how does this translate into, say, Kickstarter? Because these are all
Yeah.
beats that are happening around the Kickstarter, right? So it's to push the Kickstarter and whatnot. At least, again, speculating. So and it has a pretty good impact. Like it very clearly, like like the same thing goes for DreamHack, right? Like you have Tastosis there. They're pretty expensive, but in some sense they can pay for themselves because they will generate like this interest with with people and reach out a little bit further and
Yeah,
so
I
I think
actually
they're doing that well, even if the content that's being produced isn't like as good as, say, like getting you and Biomo for Steadfast to do something similar. It's a good strat.
Well, I do have strong opinions about that, which I don't think I'll get into now. But it's not the most ideal way to get eyes because not because of Tastosis or not, but because it is on a entirely different channel long before any mainstay event is able to like move viewers over. So I do think that would be kind of a weird point of marketing, just because I think like the actual stream itself is going to be very low viewership. But whatever YouTube activity happens afterward might be worth it. I'm not sure.
Well, one thing
So-
also is that I think I've seen that they said that they're going to let a bunch of different content creators co-stream, like off a clean feed, or so like it's live cast off a clean feed. for the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
match. So that
I can-
should go ahead.
I can speak to my reasoning on this because I contacted Alex, right? And I was like, hey, like how like I would love to do I've been talking to my team. I would love for ZeroSpace to show up at DreamHack Atlanta.
Mhm.
Reasoning for us was quite simple. It's the hardcore RTS strategy crowd, right? It's the hardcore StarCraft crowd that we do want to make a strong connection with. It's not like you get a lot of new eyes. Like most people, a lot of them will know about the game already and whatnot. But what you do with that move is kind of say like we're here, like we care about the competitive aspect of our game. Like that is a major point for us, and this is basically activating super fans, right? Like the hardcore audience for ZeroSpace or Stormgate is incredibly important because they're the ones that ultimately are going to make the most noise, right? Like one super fan or one content creator even was worth so much more than capturing like just random eyeballs. So it's two different types of marketing. One that is just kind of like like throwing out a wide net, and the other one that's kind of like hyping up your core. And I feel like that's what the beta DreamHack is going to accomplish for Stormgate. And they're going to be on the main stage, and Testosis is going to be there. The StarCraft fans, the most hardcore fans that you can get for RTS, are all going to be sitting there, right? Like that's a great opportunity, and that's kind of why we decided not to go with our show match as well, is because as things unfolded, we found that we would be competing for timing with the RTS, like with the RTS stage, while being on the main stage. And when that happened, we were like, well, we're not here for for showing our game to a lot of people. Like we're at DreamHack Atlanta specifically because of the hardcore RTS fans. That's who we're here to talk to, basically, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's probably similar reasoning.
Yeah, no, I can see it. I do wonder how much money is actually put into it and worth it, which we can't really get into without, I think,
They
breaching
have
privacy.
the added benefit of Kickstarter as well, right? So it can help.
I think that
directly.
is important to point out as well. Like we had this discussion last time about like what would be a success for Stormgate's Kickstarter, especially in the context of ZeroSpace having a pretty successful Kickstarter. I'd say over $1 million in 48 hours is they've gotten far more than they expected to get out of it.
I was expecting they would get 2 million. That was my estimations internally, right? Like I think that their marketing has been fantastic. They've done a lot of that, and ultimately I'm rooting for their Kickstarter to do well, right? Because like if I'm gonna be completely blunt, like if they make 2 million and they make waves, the game that gets compared to them is us, and that's obviously a good thing for ZeroSpace.
Well, that's going to be it for the show, guys, actually. Very short show. Just wanted to get an Atlanta preview for the most part out before we actually go to Atlanta. But then, yes, there'll be a couple of new RTS to check out, review, either way, if you are going to be there. But then they will also be on the ESL channel, which is again different than what StarCraft 2 is going to be on. So keep that in mind if you're looking forward to watching it, or YouTube it later, I suppose. But that's going to be it.
Also have some small info on that. It's not like poor strategy on their end. It's just that StarCraft has the StarCraft IP with ESL. I don't know if the contract's still running or whatever, but it would be an extra step for ESL to clear with Blizzard that they can.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing,
Zero
though,
chance
is that
Blizzard lets them do that.
if we're not going to end the show, here's the thing: is that I didn't think that they would be well received, even if they could have finagled their way into the main stream.
Interesting.
And during the tournament, we actually kind of discussed that last time after you had gone, which is that if this was like on the same stream but right before the finals to replace like the arcade games you usually play, I actually really did not like that. So yeah, I don't I think it's totally fine what they're doing. I do think that kind of takes away some of the awesomeness that is Tastosis casting it, because it will be earlier on in the day for a lot of the Americans. The West Coasters aren't going to be able to see it unless they wake up on time. It will be on a different channel, and there will be no push, live with 10,000 viewers already watching to then go to that channel to check it out. So it's a lot of money, is what I can say, I guess, vaguely, for something that's probably not going to be the biggest as far as stream viewership. Like I said, maybe the YouTube and kind of just feel of it will make up for that.
And the fans locally.
Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah. But yeah, we will end the episode here. So thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. We will be back at a future date, but we're all going to be in Atlanta, so hopefully we'll see many of you there or online in the chat being nice. Be nice, guys. Bye.